Hey everyone, you are just joining in our literary platform, the Literary Nook by Ferry and his Ferry. Let's start our today's topic, but before going further, don't forget to subscribe my channel, like the videos and share. So today I'm going to discuss Romanticism and Classicism in English literature. There are two distinctive tendencies in the history of literature, classic and romantic. At the same period, in the history of literature, one tendency dominates and then it is followed by the predominance of the other tendency. And in this manner, they appear alternatively, one following the other. In the history of English literature, the Elizabethan period may be called the first romantic period dominated by Marlowe, Shakespeare, Spenser, and others. It was followed by the classical period in the 18th century, whose important literary figures were Dryden, Pope, Addison, Swift, and Dr. Johnson. The later part of the 18th century and the early part of the 19th century, whose prominent poets were Wordsworth, Coleridge, Scott, Byron, Shelley, Keats, was dominated by the Romantic tendency, and hence it is called the Romantic period. During the Victorian period in the English, the Romantic tendency continued to dominate the literature, but the 20th century literature shows signs of the classical tendency. The distinctive symptoms of classicism are a belief in reason, emphasis on the civilized, modern, and sophisticated modes of life, interest in urban society, preoccupations with human nature, love for mundane equality or actuality, satirical tendency, expressions of accepted moral truth, realistic recognition of things as they are, belief in good and evil, acceptance of established religious and philosophical creeds, attachment to normal, generic abstractions, impersonal objectivity, interest in public themes, emphasis on formal correctness and the ideal of order, popularity of poetry of prose statement, use of formal poetic diction, self-conscious traditionalism, rational sobriety of Latin literature. On the other hand, the symptoms of Romanticism are belief in feelings, imagination, and intuition, emphasis on the primitive, medieval, and natural modes of life, interest in rural solitude, preoccupation with the aesthetic, spiritual values of external nature, love for the visions of mysterious, the ideal, and the infinite, the tendency of myth making, discovery of the beauty that is truth, faith in progress, belief in man and the goodness and individual speculation and revelation, attachment to the concrete particularities and the subjectivism, interest in private themes, emphasis on individual expressiveness, ideal of intensity, popularity of image and symbol, use of common language, self consciousness, originality, and romantic Hellenism. But the terms classical and romantic are not so strictly opposed to each other as has been pointed out. In fact, one grows out of the other and they overlap each other. In reality, both the tendencies are present in great works of literature, though in varying proportions. In these connections, Pater has observed in his book Appreciations the words classical and romantic, although, like many other critical expressions, sometimes abused by those who have understood them too vaguely or too absolutely, yet define two real tendencies in the history of art and literature, used in an exaggerated sense to express a greater opposition between these two tendencies and to express a greater exposition they really exist. They have at the times tended to divide peoples of taste into opposite camps. The term classical, fixed as it is to a well defined literature, is clear indeed, but then it has often been used in a hard and merely scholastic sense by the praises of what is old and accustomed at the expense of what is new, by critics who would never have discovered for themselves the charm of any work, whether new or old, who value what is old in art or literature for its accessories and chiefly for the conventional authority that has gathered about it. And as the term classical has been used in a too absolute and therefore in a misleading sense, so the term romantic has been used much too vaguely in a various accidental senses. The sense in which Scott is called a romantic writer is chiefly this, that is opposition to the literary tradition of the 18th century. He loved strange adventures and sought it in the Middle Ages, but the romantic spirit is in reality ever present, an enduring principle in the artistic temperament and the qualities of thought and style which that other similar uses of the word romantic really indicate and are indeed but symptoms of a very continuous and widely working influence. The charm of what is called classical in art and literature is that of a well known tale to which we can nevertheless listen over and over again because it is told so well. To the absolute beauty of its artistic form is added to the accidental, tranquil charm of familiarity. It is character in art and the desire of the beauty being a fixed element in every artistic organization. It is the addition of curiosity to the desire of beauty that constitutes the romantic temper. The essential elements then of the romantic spirits are curiosity and the love of beauty, and it is only as an illustration of these qualities that it seeks the Middle Ages. Because in the overcharged atmosphere of the Middle Ages, there are unworked sources of romantic effect to be won by strong imagination out of the things unlikely. So, classical and romantic tendencies, when carried to the extreme, do much damage to the genuine literature. The former degenerates into rigid formalism and slavish obedience to the rules, which suppress and undermine all initiative and originality of the writer, as was the case during the 18th century in England. The later turns itself into license, extravagance, and the lack of restraints, which lead to chaos. As it happened in the later phases of the Elizabethan Romanticism, the best type of the literature combines in equal proportion both the classical and the romantic elements. In it, we find strength exercised with restraints, discipline, imagination, perfect harmony, originality, in conformity with the highest standards of literary excellence, and above all, nothing too much. Great writers like Chaucer, Milton, Shakespeare exhibit in their work both the tendencies harmoniously blended. That was all for today. Stay connected for more. Me, Ferry, signing out from the Little Nook by Ferry.